Salam Allah, peace family. I'm your brother in the struggle, brother Minister Alif. And today we would like to pick up where we left off from Gods2Jews. This is going to be part 3. Today I would like to cover some of the Jewish systems, if you will. Now, when you understand the Afrocentric original Judaism, you'll understand that Judaism, or the Jewish religion as it's known, is actually reformed into what we call Christianity. And Christianity is actually reformed into what we call Islam. So, the Holy Quran teaches that the Bible is true, but it has been tampered with. And the Quran is actually revealed to correct the misinformation, the lost knowledge, if you will, the hidden knowledge that was lost in the Bible or the Torah. So the Holy Quran comes as a scripture giving us more light, if you will. Now, in the nation of Islam, over the years, many of the FOI and MGTs have come to see the Holy Quran as a miracle book, a divine book. And the problem with that line of reasoning is it's a slippery slope. What it does is it takes you down. If you see the Quran as a miracle, you'll subconsciously see the Quran as magical. And if you see the Quran as magical, you'll subconsciously see an imaginary God. So what happens is people will literally take the physical Quran and look at it like it's from a spooky God. And because of hadiths, legends, mythologies, misinterpretations, cultures, politics, economics, superstition, they bring the old spooky stuff from the old religions over into the new religion, or the new spiritual science, if you will. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says something. Let me find it for us. I'm gonna come from Message to the Black Man in America, 1965. Give me a moment here. The Messenger, I just want to share with you something that the Messenger shared with us about the Holy Quran. 2 things, actually. Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, I'm coming from page number 90 of Message to the Black Man in America, which was published in 1965. This is not from me. This is directly from the Messenger's message, which will guide you through this age of mess if you can take the evil E off your emotions and deal with the emotion, deal with the reality, deal with the facts, okay? Dealing with the pure teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Nation of Islam has to understand that all religions, after the leader is gone, people are so spooky that they get offended even if you say the leader died. Now, it's like they want to make the leader somehow immortal in a spooky sense. But all of the prophets and messengers of God and all of the followers of the prophets and messengers of God, all of the life forms on earth are created to die. That's just part of life. I mean, you can't have the law of polarity as a universal law and live forever. You know what I mean? It just simply, you know what I mean? It just simply is not mathematics. You know what I mean? You know, it's really, in my opinion, I just like to say it's spooky. You know what I mean? It turns you into a spiritual cream puff. You know what I mean? I knew FOIs. I knew a FOI that used to take his Holy Quran and he used to wrap it up like in a shroud and sit it up on the highest part of the room. You know what I mean? And he did all this reverend stuff. He would take and make wudu before he touched the Quran. And I was like, man, this brother really respects the Holy Quran. I have no problem with that. I love the Holy Quran. I love the Bible. I love the Torah. I love the Septuagint. I love the Meta. I love the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt. I love the book of coming forth out of light into darkness, or darkness to life, or the book of the living, or the book of the dead. It's, you know, it's known by different names and nomenclature. People get spooky with it. But I noticed that this FOI that did all this ritualistic, symbolic, supernatural, spooky stuff with this Quran, he had his message to the black man just sitting on the desk. He had his Fall of America sitting on the floor. So I asked him, I was like, let me ask you something. Why do you give all this reverence to the Holy Quran and not to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's books? And he basically was like, oh, because the Holy Quran, you know, it's the divine revelation from Allah, and ooh, man. And I was like, when you say from Allah, what Allah is you talking about? He's like, you know, Allah. No, I'm asking you, what Allah are you talking about? See what I'm saying? And he trying to wiggle around it. You know what I mean? You know, sharp brother. He used to eat 1 meal a day, vegetarian. I mean, ate very unhealthy to me. I explained to him, I was like, you eat 1 meal a day, but you eat a bunch of bean soups and carbs, and that's not going to give you optimal health. You're not understanding the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. And over the past almost 40 years now, that's what I came to see, that you have people, they do things and believe things because they're sincere and they trying to do the right thing. Unfortunately, they was taught wrong. They were not studying thoroughly enough. Now, I mean, they were not given the complete teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They was just given little tidbits and quotes and fractions. Now, I mean, and they knew more about hadiths than they did about the Quran. And when I say that, I mean in the Nation of Islam, a lot of people know more about what the ministers or the captains or the secretaries teach or said or did than they do about Master Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad. Now, I mean, and this brother was so sincere with it. Now, I mean, I didn't want to offend my brother because I respect my brothers. You know, I respect anybody's worldview that believes, but I wanted him to understand what the messenger position was on certain things. So we had a good conversation. I mean, he was able to ask me some questions, you know, and get some clarity. You know what I mean? And I liked him because he was shy at first, but, you know, once he, you know what I mean, start getting more on a aggressive tip. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It was like he really was trying to, hold up. You know what I mean? And I was just staying calm, smiling, because I see that the messenger's message is waking him up. Slowly but surely, he's like, hold on, wait a minute, how can, where he say that at? And I'd be like, down Elijah Muhammad City, and I would literally be like, oh, let me go get it, let's look it up. You know what I mean? And I'd take them to the books, take them to the lessons, you know what I mean? And you know, and when we finished, he was like, brother, I never looked at it like that. And I've been at FOI 17 years. I never knew that's what the messenger taught. I really thought that there was this other law. Know what I mean? And I explained that language is important. Know what I mean? Like, people that know me be like, you know, I say assalamu alaikum. Know what I mean? Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah wa barakatuh, peace, peace, shalom, shalom, what have you. But I consciously say salam Allah. Salam in Arabic just simply means peace. Know what I mean? Allah means the God. Know what I mean? And if I send it in a text or something, I'd be like, if I'm talking to a brother, I'd be like, salam Allah, peace God. If I'm talking to an MGT or a black sister, I'd be like, salam Allah, peace goddess. Because you got a lot of brothers like, oh, the black woman, she's not a goddess, and this, that, and the other. The messenger never taught nothing like that, this, that, and the other, ooh, bang. And it's like, they're right, but they're wrong. Now, I mean, like, they see people who have part of the message. Yeah, like the message, like, yeah, the Quran, he used the Quran to crush the falsehood of the Bible. But he like, don't get spooky now. He like, now don't think that we're trying to give up some white slave master, some white Christian biblical slave master for some brown Arab Quranic slave masters. The message thing is like, yo, Supreme Wisdom, book 1 and 2, this thing is like, the Arabs put us in slavery too. They got an answer for that too. We trying to deal with this devil right here, right now. But them Arabs, them Arabs hated the so-called Negroes. I don't want to, use the negative terms, but they looked at us as the N-word too. I mean, they raped, robbed, and murdered our people too. They came up in Egypt like colonizers. They came up in Egypt, broke up in the tombs and killed our babies, all that. Enslaved them. I mean, they was horrific. I mean, and I don't ignore that. I don't forget that. Like, yo, you know what I mean? And, it's like the devil is the devil regardless of place or time. I wouldn't care if he's in America or in Mecca. I mean, you got devils all over the planet Earth. And I'm talking devils in person. I ain't talking those, what I mean? And I'm not, and you put it like this. You got some white people that sincerely are helping us. And you got some black people that are sincerely in the way. They are trying to hurt our people. You have some FOIs, like came in the Nation of Islam and literally destroyed the Nation of Islam. I mean, and you have some Christians, politicians, Jews, whites, Hispanics, gangsters that did a whole lot to help out people in the Nation of Islam. You know what I mean? So you can't be naive to that reality. You know what I mean? To the gray area. Everybody's like, everything in black and white. It's like, if everything's in black and white, wherever they meet, it has to be a gray area. That's a universal law. You know what I mean? There has to be a balance there. That's where that freedom, justice, equality come in, that my act. It don't make you ignore or forget your enemy. It makes you understand your enemy and your so-called friends even better. Okay? So this is what the messages, I'm just want to just share this one jewel from page number 90 about the Quran. Now, I mean, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The messenger says, and I quote, in fact, I'm going to start from page 89. It's just a sentence before that. He says, if we should set ourselves aside to preach the truth, then we must be sure that we have and know the truth ourselves. If we preach it from a book, we must make certain that the book is true and that it is from the author of truth. The Bible and Holy Quran are filled with truth. Notice, the Bible and the Holy Quran are filled with truth. Both of them. Okay. That leads us up to the judgment. And some of their prophecies refer to the hereafter. Okay. The Bible has to have some truth in it if it can do that. The Quran has to have some truth in it if it can do that. All right? Now, stay with me for a moment. Don't get spooky. You know what I mean? Since these prophecies are a small percentage of the whole, it makes it necessary for a new scripture. It makes it necessary for a new scripture or guidance for the hereafter. Here the message is saying, like, listen, the Bible's true, the Quran true, if you understand them anyway. But we're going to need something different than the present Bible and the present Quran and the hereafter, okay? Because they take us up to the judgment. They don't take you in there. They don't take you into that kingdom, let you know what I mean, how the gods will live. All right. They give you prophecies and similes, like, you know what I mean, the milk won't spoil, but there won't be no cows in there that we're drinking. You know what I mean? It's you know, it's like a perpetual youth serving liquor that you don't get no hangover from and all that kind of, you know what I mean? But it's giving you a example of what do you consider heaven? You know what I mean? Like beautiful family, all the wealth and luxury, gold streets and pearly gates, you know what I mean? A land of milk and honey, you know what I mean? Precious emeralds and jewels and all that stuff like that there. It's like whatever, you know what I mean? An appeal to human nature. But here's the part that a lot of people is overlooking about these scriptures that we have. The colonizers are the 10%, the rich, the slave makers, or the poor. The devil has been able to handle the Bible for the past 4,000 years and the Quran for the past 1,400 years. Imagine that. Becca is invaded by the Romans. They are colonizing Becca, and Becca gets renamed Mecca. All right. What do you think these wars was about? What do you think the slavery and the racism and the kidnapping of scholars and the translations and mistranslations and why they had to meet and have all these debates over which Quran is the correct Quran and which hadiths are the right hadiths? Now, I mean, you know, how is it that 1 billion Muslims in 2022, not all of them, but many of them, are taking the hadiths over the Holy Quran, the glorious Quran, the noble Quran? You see, you know, I used to research that just out of, you know, curiosity, just trying to understand it. And, you know, it was like, they was like, I always hear about the sound hadiths, the Sahih hadiths, Bukhari. And I'm like, okay, well, let me study this. Who's this Bukhari? I mean, I'm studying Bukhari. Like, okay, Bukhari, he was a white man from Russia, an alcoholic. And they saying he wrote all these hadiths, like 200,000 or something. I mean, I did an article a long time ago. I mean, and in the article that I did the math. And basically I was like, okay, he lived to be this old. All right, let's say we cut it in half. Like, say, for example, somebody wrote 200,000 hadiths. You say, okay, all right, if you wrote 200 hadiths, say you lived 100 years, you wrote 200,000. I'm just using this hypothetical. You wrote 200 hadiths. All right, you'd be like, okay, well, let's say in 50 years, you got 100,000. All right, okay, say in when you was 25, you did, say, 25,000. And you just do the math. You'd be like, you had to be like, what, 4 years old, and you writing like 1,400 hadiths when you was 4? It doesn't add up. It's not mathematics. Now, I mean, likewise, in this day and time, you hear all this stuff like, oh, I remember Down Elijah Muhammad said this. Something totally contrary to the messenger's teachings. You can't take what the messenger said, as he put it, hook, line, and sinker. Now, I mean, like if somebody said something, if somebody taught something, say for 44 years, and out of the 44 years, they said something else one time. Why is you running with the one, like I'm just using for example, because it just came to mind. The messenger for 44 years taught that Prophet Muhammad was a black man. One time he mentioned Prophet Muhammad as a white man. And you have FOISMG, oh, Prophet Muhammad was white. And they run it off with that. And I'm like, wait a minute. Right here, he said he was black. Right here, he didn't just say he was black. He said Prophet Muhammad and Jesus were both dark-skinned black men. Not only was they black, the messenger, word for word, says they were dark-skinned. I mean, it's like he write articles in the Pittsburgh Courier. Now, say the messenger didn't say that. Those that know the history of the prophets for that matter, those that study the science, the history, they like, all the prophets were black. You see? But here you have some FOIs and MGTs running around saying Prophet Muhammad was white because they read it one time in Theology of Time in 1972, which means, the messenger born, 1897. So at the age of 75, he mentioned Prophet Muhammad is white. And instead of being like, oh, dear Holy Apostle, you always told us that. What do you mean by white? He would explain. To me, it's real simple. Meaning that our lesson is that Prophet Muhammad thought he could reform the devil. Meaning that way of thinking, that mindset, was white. He thought he could reform the devils, but, agreed to give him heart problems. He just loves people so much. He's a good brother. He's a good dude. We love him whether he was black or white. But historically, we say, not just to grab him in the culture, but it's like he's an Arab. There weren't no white Arabs. They up in Europe. How did the Egyptians become white? How did the Ethiopians become white? How did the Arabs? How did the people of Persia, Babylon? And it's like, so the messenger teaches us that the Quran has been tampered with too. I know. But let me read it from the messenger. He says in Message to the Black Man in America, page number 90, he says, the enemy has tampered with the truth in both books. The enemy has tampered with the truth in both books, for he has been permitted to handle both books. Neither the Holy Quran nor the Bible was revealed with the intention of converting the white race into truth and righteousness, for God knew that there was no good in them the day they were created. But they are capable of deceiving you in regard to a law and the righteous. So here, the message teaches us the enemy has been able to tamper with the truth of both books. Now, those of you that study Arabic or Arabic know, you can look at the early editions of the Quran and you be like, there's no surah, this, that, and the other, and the ayats and all this stuff we have in these modern day Qurans. Even in the Arabic language, them vowels they put in there, like in English, we got A, E, I, O, U, Y, sometimes Y, all that. They got the cash or the doom or the shad or the mada. They added those things into there. If you add or take anything from God's word, that's the enemy tampering with the truth of that particular book. I wouldn't care if it was a Torah, if it was the Bible, the Gospels, as I say, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Final Testament, the Final Revelation, whatever you want to call it. So let us look at and try to understand some of this Jewish ethnicity and how it functions in the nation of Islam. I would like to first read from point number 12 of what the Muslims want and believe about, and cover a little bit of what's known as a theocracy. Remember that word, a theocracy. Okay. point number 12 of what the Muslims believe by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. You can find it back in Final Calls, Muhammad Speaks, in the back of Al Sayers Arrived in 1974, a myriad of places. All right, point number 12. We believe that Allah God appeared in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, July 1930, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. We believe further and lastly that Allah is God, and besides him, he put him in all capital letters. I didn't do it. Now, I mean, the Holy Quran uses Huwa Allahi, he, the God. It refers to some pronoun, some masculine pronoun, all right? We believe further and last that Allah is God, and besides him, there is no God. And he will bring about a universal government of peace, wherein we all can live in peace together. So the ultimate objective is not jihad, where we killing people, terrorism, violence, arguing, debates, hatred, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, atheism. It's all about human beings trying to mature as human beings, trying to tap into our humanity, trying to live by the golden rule. No matter what faith it is, we all teach, do unto others as you want done unto you. See, once we get to that vibration, the atheists, the spiritual people, the politicians, the rich, the poor, the black, white, everybody, then you're going to see something. You're going to be like, yo, you have babies being born that are showing and proving powers that we just never thought human beings could do. You'll have people living longer than we ever imagined human beings could live. You'll have visionaries developing technologies that will actually master the entire universe, terraform other planets, show and prove that the black man is God. Bear witness scientifically that they all came from the original man, the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. So a theocracy is basically unified tribes of ancient Israel. Now, when we say unified tribes, you got to understand the Jews or Yehudi, whatever name you want to call them, the Jews are a mixed group of people. I'm talking about if we was to go back, say, 4,000 years ago. Originally, the only Jews were black people. Okay, there's no other way you can really word it. Now, I mean, but these black people, if you physically was to look at it, you'll say, okay, some of them are black, some of them are brown, some of them are yellow, some of them are red, but they consider themselves black. It's like somebody 2,000 years in the future seeing a dark-skinned person in America and the light-skinned person and saying they're two different people. Like some kind, like, you know, like the slave masters used to do that. You know what I mean? The paper bag test, as they call it. You know what I mean? It's like someone that's a shade darker than me saying I'm not black. I actually met a brother some time ago. You know what I mean? And he basically was believing that. He used to teach like the only black people is blacks with a certain shade. His thing was like, if you're lighter than, like, say somebody like Minister Farrakhan, they'd be like, he's not black because he's light skinned. Know what I mean? And me and him used to communicate for a couple of years, and I eventually won him over. Know what I mean? But it was hard for him to understand dominant and recessive genes. Know what I mean? I'm like, yo, bro, you have what's called the phenotype, and the genotype. The phenotype is how do you look. The genotype is genetically, what are you? Who are you? Master Muhammad looks white. But if he has a pure black father and a pure white mother, my father and my father's 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 father and my mother's mother, they always mix with all kind of stuff. So whatever I am, I'm like a mutt. I'm gumbo. I'm mixed with all kind. I got German, African. My grandmother was a Blackfoot Indian. I mean, you know, so we're mixed with all kind of things. But it just makes me, I get darker than this in the summertime. It's kind of light right now. I like that melanin. I like that sun. But the thing is, it's like, I don't classify our people as race. That's what white folks did. That's what racists did. You know what I mean, Johan, that's some nonsense they came up with. Our people considered Indians, Chinese, Arabs, Africans, family. We're humans. We human. We're melanin people. We're colored people, people of the sun. I mean, you know, so it was real simple when we wasn't fighting over oil, fighting over gold, fighting over slavery, fighting over politics and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Once, you know, like the Bible puts it, you know what I mean, the love of money is the root of all evil. You know what I mean? You know, we could get out of that way of thinking, we'll make a lot of progress. All right. So these Jews, if you will, they had their own ethnicity or ethnic group, or their culture, the way they dress, the way they do their beards, you know what I mean, the way they wear their headpieces, it's like their culture. People would say they were a cult, and that thing be like, a cult could be a negative thing, especially if you got a dictator or a crazy person in front of you, I mean, leading you, you know what I mean? But culture is something innate in all species. I mean, like there's an ant culture. Wolves have a culture. Owls have a culture. Fish have a culture. You know what I mean? You know, humans have cultures. I mean, all life forms have cultures. You know what I mean? It's certain things that we do alike. I mean, we speak certain languages. We have certain rituals, certain foods, certain dress codes and so forth and so on. But we get spooky when we think that our ethnicity or our religion or our culture is somehow unique. I mean, it's like, now you're stretching it. I mean, if you think the Nation of Islam came out of a vacuum, if you don't think the Nation of Islam has ties to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Messiah Garvey and Father Divine and Bishop Sweet Daddy Grace and Reverend Ike and so forth and so on. Now, I mean, you really getting a little spooky now. I mean, you know, I mean, you really get like if Prophet Noble Drew Ali is running around teaching that black people are Asiatics, and then we're running around teaching that we're Asiatics. Now, I mean, if Father Divine and Bishop Daddy Grace and all of them is teaching that, if Reverend Nike and them is teaching that we answer our own prayers, you are God. It's like, so that's not some magical hocus pocus Master Muhammad invented. I mean, that's not some type of doctrine that came off the mother plane or something. I mean, when you look at it,